Hey guys, King of Charmanders here, and today I bring you a video on Monster Hunter Now revenue and downloads analysis for 2024. Is Monster Hunter Now all about the money? This video analyzes Monster Hunter Now's revenue and download metrics since the game's release. We will be using data from multiple sources such as Statista and AppMagic, and revenue is the money a company generates before expenses are taken out. So again, before expenses are taken out, this does not take into account that, hey, you have to spend money in order to keep the game running and pay your employees and all this other stuff. So again, this is just the money you get before you spend stuff. This doesn't mean this is the amount of money they make after they do all the expenses for their costs, for their employees, and for everything else. First, we're going to start off with the Monster Hunter Now revenue generated from August 2023 to July 2024. And this data is from Statista. And this data starts at August 2023 because that was the beta and early release for certain countries and players. September 2003 was the official release worldwide. I didn't get early release because I wasn't a Capcom creator back then. However, Capcom creators, certain countries, and other players managed to get an early look and play Monster Hunter Now early. And this is why Monster Hunter Now made the following revenue, and this is likely rounded up. I'm only going to start from September just because there's no reason for me to start from August. August is pre-release, but players still spent money, but we're going to get the cream of the crop of the data from September and onwards because that's when the game officially released worldwide. The following metrics are going to be in United States dollar in millions, and here's an example. If I'm saying 10, this equals $10 million in United States dollars. So 10 equals 10 million USD. So starting from September 2023, on September 2023, they made $17.49 million. On August 2023, $29.34 million. On November 2023, $16.49 million. Then we have December 2023 at $17.68 million. Moving on to next year, we have January 2024 with $13.98 million. And then to February 2024 at $5.44 million. This was the lowest the game has had. And then it made a comeback at March 2024 with $10.61 million. And on to April 2024 with $7.65 million. And then into May 2024 with $7.99. And then we enter the summer at June 2024 with $11.08 million. And we have an end at July 2024 at $9.48 million. Now that we looked at the revenue, here's where buying potions mattered the most. So I hear a lot of people out there where they're like, oh my gosh, all Niantic wants is to get more potions out of us. Well, here's the thing. This data is going to show you that's not true. Here's when potions actually mattered the most for Monster Hunter Now, as they generated the most revenue during 3 particular months. September 2023 with $17.48 million US. And number 2, the second period, they had October 2023 with $29.34 million US. And at point number 3, December 2023 with $17.68 million US. And here's the thing, these 3 months were still during the beginning stages of Monster Hunter Now, so not many players had maxed out weapons/armor. Now that we have a lot of players past those months with a ton of maxed out weapons and armor and all of their full builds, etc., they're not worried about spending for potions. So it's pretty clear that during this period from September to December, this is when potions mattered the most and when people were spending the most on potions. There were no major updates or anything during this time. So because of this, most players were probably spending on potions to hunt more, especially when you see that high increase in October with $29.34 million, which is absolutely ridiculous. Even though, like I mentioned, there was no major updates during that time. And here's why potions don't make much money anymore. Here's 2 main factors. 1, when players get stronger, they also use less potions, like I mentioned before. More players with strong weapons like Black Diablo Spore or just a max weapon in general, they're not going to use healing items as much as they used to. And at number 2, This is especially true for cities/countries with high player density and have access to an unlimited number of group hunts at home. So if you can sit at home and you have like 40 nearby hunters with hunts, must be nice, but you're part of the group as to why they don't need potions as much as anymore. You can have all these strong hunters carrying you, or you have a friend that's really strong, and you're probably mooching off of them. Not saying that's bad, they're your friends, so obviously our friends are going to help us out if they're a good friend. And this is evidenced by the drop-off in revenue since January 2024. If you look at 2024, after that, Monster Hunter now hasn't made higher than $13.98 million. So it hasn't made as much money as its highest point since this time. So it has been literally 7 months, and they haven't made anything close to what they've had before in the previous year in 2023. However, it's not just potions. Here are other factors to consider in the early stages of the game. We have to assume some players are still doubling their materials, buying wandering droplets/orbs, pink paintballs, and of course, the Prime Hunter Pass. We also have to take into account buying gems from the in-game shop and the web store. In addition, there are the item bundles that can only be purchased with real-world currency. Here's an example, event packs in the shop/in-game store. I have bought all of these, the booster packs, etc. So if you have the web store or the in-game store, there are only some things in there that you could buy with real-world money. So you can't buy them with gems. Most of the time you have to buy gems first before you double your materials or buy other items, but in this case there are some, like these packs, on the web store that you have to buy with actual cash, and you can't do it with gems. Moving on, we have key updates that positively affected revenue. So in December 2023 is when Hunt-a-thons released, debuting Hunt-a-thon tickets. This helped generate 2 high points of revenue for Monster Hunter Now, as December 2023 and January 2024 combined for $31.66 million US. Yay, Hunt-a-thons released! We didn't have global matchmaking at this time, but still, I'm pretty sure some players bought tickets, and in those places with high population areas, like I mentioned before, they didn't have to worry about players because they can have players help and invite them to Hunt-a-thons. So they didn't have to worry about that. But March 2024, on the other hand, at this time introduced the Season Pass. This almost doubled Monster Hunter Now's revenue from February 2024 at $5.44 million to March 2024 at $10.61 million. So big increase. Thank you, Season Pass. And this helped them a lot, considering February was really abysmal. But what was not abysmal was June 2024, because this announced the grand arrival of Elder Dragon Interceptions. The big daddies of Monster Hunter Now, Elder Dragons, finally came into the game. These legendary monsters increased Monster Hunter Now's revenue from $5.44 million, which was from February, the abysmal stage I was talking about, to $10.61 million. So again, from before, from the March blurb I mentioned about, it almost doubled their revenue for that month, which is really nice because Elder Dragons are incredible, and it helped for those Ultra Hunting tickets that they transformed into generate more money for the game. And now that we looked at the key updates that made positive money, there are also key updates that did not have a big effect on revenue. This starts out with April 2024, because that's when global matchmaking released. One of the best updates in the game, but even though this was a huge update, revenue was 2 of the top 3 lowest points of revenue for Monster Hunter Now. April 2024 only netted $7.65 million, and March 2024 had $7.99 million. So despite this, April 2024 also had the Monster Tracker, and that's when it released. And despite these 2 updates, and Monster Tracker was a pretty big one as well, this only increased revenue by $440,000 from April 2024 to May 2024. So we weren't even going into the millions, and despite these 2 big updates, it didn't really help Monster Hunter Now that much as far as comparing its revenue for when these 2 updates weren't out. In addition, July 2024 debuted the first paid ticket event. And despite this release, yay Niantic Palumu, Mizutsune early, and all those bonuses, Monster Hunter Now made less in July 2024 with $9.84 million US dollars versus the 11.8 million to be exact US dollars in June 2024. Yeah, June had that major update, but they actually made less in July in comparison to when it was like in June. So it was like, wait, what? We gave this ticket, so we should make more, right? Well, they actually didn't. But wait, there was more that happened during that time period. And this is how Driftsmelting affected revenue. I want to put this in a whole separate block because everyone's like, oh my god, gotcha, Driftsmelting. And gotcha is all about money grabbing. Well, despite the negative stigma behind Driftsmelting, it actually did not generate a ton of revenue for Monster Hunter Now. Wasn't as predatory as much as you think it was. Because in fact, Driftsmelting was released shortly after Global Matchmaking and the Monster Tracker. Despite this trifecta of updates, and Driftsmelting giving you new skills, this only increased revenue by 440,000 US dollars from April 2024 to May 2024. Not even the million, no, not in the millions. 440,000. A stark difference in comparison to everything else, despite this trifecta of updates. Fact is, you do not need Driftsmelting skills to defeat 8-star monsters and max out your weapons and armor. You can do great without them. So despite the whole thing where everyone's trying to say like, oh my gosh, this is so unfair, blah 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 blah, even though you can walk your stones and get this for free, and people are spending on Instasmelts, there actually wasn't as many people spending and Driftsmelting and Instasmelting as much as you think they were. Ah yes, the money does run money. But the question is, where does the money come from the most in Monster Hunter Now? These are the top spending countries. This article is from pocketgamer.biz. I will source the article in the video description and put all of them there so that you can access it for yourself and see the data. This analyzes the game up to March 2024, and this article was published on March 7, 2024. Per this data, Japan is the top spending country, generating 71% of Monster Hunter Now's revenue, and the interesting thing about this, Japan only accounts for 35% of total downloads. So if you're wondering why the first major live event is in Japan, well, look no further. Meanwhile, we have in second place, we got Hong Kong with 13.5 million US dollars, followed by third place with Taiwan with 10.5 million US dollars, and fourth place is, unfortunately, well, me, the United States, with 9 million US dollars. So you can risk me all you want for doubling up Black Diablo's material mats during this time period, because you know what? Even I spent it, and the United States, and despite being one of the largest countries in the world, we're in fourth place behind Japan and the other Asian countries. Moving on, we have the top grossing country data by AppMagic. And this data is gathered by the metrics website AppMagic, as well as the data analyzing the top grossing countries in Monster Hunter Now in terms of average over time. So this is the median average of where it topped on the charts of its respective country, and this doesn't take into consideration the competition Monster Hunter Now has versus other mobile games, like of course the ever popular and the OG Monster Pokemon Go. Well, technically Pokemon Go isn't the OG, it's Ingress, but you know, Pokemon Go is the most popular one, so we're gonna go with that. And taking a look at data, we're going to look at the top 10 grossing average countries versus everyone else. So if you look at this box where it has all the colors there, that's the top 10. And 8 out of the top 10 countries with the highest grossing average is from Asia. The only ones that aren't are Turkey and Spain. So literally over 20%, 80% are Asian countries for the top average grossing. So when it puts the competition of Monster Hunter Now versus all the other apps available out there for gaming, Monster Hunter Now places the highest in these. And this data essentially reflects Asia's dominance over Monster Hunter Now and its popularity. Asia's got game, and they got the game of Monster Hunter Now in their hands. So if you live around that area and you make content for that area, guess what? You're going to get a hell of a lot more views in that said circle of that 8 circle of countries in the East versus me. So no matter what I do, this is factual, no matter what I do as a Western content creator, I'm not going to beat out someone from the East. At least in most scenarios. Despite that, I'm still one of the top content creators in the West. So yeah, I think I'm doing pretty good for myself. But yeah, the East, y'all got it good. For us, in the West, we got a whole lot of work to do. And more work to do. But there is some exciting news, and here we have Monster Hunter Now's revenue analysis in the last 30 days versus its lifetime. So this data analyzes the revenue of Monster Hunter Now in the last 30 days, which is July, and the lifetime of Monster Hunter Now since it released. And as you see here, Japan is the #1 driver of revenue in the past 30 days, as it accounts for nearly a third of Monster Hunter Now's revenue at 69%. Very nice number, by the way. And it stays at #1 in lifetime revenue, with more than half at 63%. That's a lot. Japan, I said, is doing well. Well, last 30 days and a lifetime, they doing really well. But here's where the West is doing great, and this is probably because the United States is an incredibly large country and one of the largest countries in the world. But the US is in second place, as it accounts for 9% in the past 30 days revenue and continues at second place with 18% at lifetime revenue. But yeah, yay, we're in second place, right? Well, the East is still the beast, because this data reveals that Japan and the East dominate the revenue, and that the West would have little overall effect if spending dropped. They only account for less than 20% of the revenue for the game. If we're talking about the past 30 days, yeah, we might, but overall, nah. So that's just it. The East is just so dang dominant, but the good thing is yeah, the United States, yay, we're doing great. So yay, for spending. So yay, give us live event, please, because we've done our part to support the game. Speaking of supporting game, we're now going to take a look at Monster Hunter Now downloads analysis from the last 30 days versus lifetime. And this data analyzes the downloads of Monster Hunter Now, as I mentioned before, from the last 30 days until the lifetime of the game so far. The United States is #1 in lifetime downloads at 35% and second place in the last 30 days at 18%. So yay, US! All the work I've done are on the West side. Yay, we're doing some good as far as like downloads, etc. in the last 30 days in promoting the game and growing the game, because that's my goal for Monster Hunter Now, is to grow the game as big as possible. I don't care about money, I don't care about views, it's to grow the game. And it's particularly for the United States, I want the game to grow in the US as big as it can be, and we're doing great. So keep it up, y'all. Keep telling your friends about, if you're in the US, about Monster Hunter Now and everywhere else, so we can make the game bigger. But this is where Japan comes in second place. Well, for just this one fact. Japan comes in second place in lifetime downloads at 14% and first place in the last 30 days at 29%. So Japan's still doing great, and Japan's still pushing the needle and carrying the flag for Monster Hunter Now. But the great thing about this is this data reveals that Monster Hunter Now is growing in the West despite the competition from other games. If you're in the gaming scene or esports scene like I am, Monster Hunter Now is far from the most popular game, and the most popular game in, as far as AR and Niantic, is Pokemon Go. So despite Pokemon Go's dominance, we are still growing, and as a former hardcore Pokemon Go player, level 50, multi-time legend, multi-time event attendee, it makes me very happy. In closing, is Monster Hunter Now all about the money? Well, with all this data we've reviewed, Monster Hunter Now is far from a predatory monetization game. Loot boxes are the big one, and we don't have loot boxes in Monster Hunter Now. Monster Hunter Now has factually made more moves that help players far more than pushing monetization. And this article from Sports Illustrated revealed the devs intended for the game to promote the Monster Hunter franchise with the least amount of direction towards pay to win or a gacha game. I know there are some mechanics that are gacha-like, but the fact of the matter is, you can max any weapon and armor in Monster Hunter Now without having to spend money. It just takes time and effort to grind it. Yes, this includes Driftsmelting. You might take a long time to walk all those Driftstones, but you don't need Driftsmelting to take out 8-star monsters, which are the hurdle you need to overcome to max your weapons and armor. You can do everything without having to spend. Unless you want some layered armor, etc., which you're probably going to dump anyways later on for other monsters that have layered armor, etc. But yeah, layered armor for monsters aren't locked behind a paywall, just certain other cosmetics. But despite this, again, far from predatory. Loot boxes aren't in the game. Thankfully, they aren't. There is no super weapon or super armor you get from spending money on the game. Exclusively spending money on the game and not hunting a monster. Just buying it from the store. With that being said, please do me a huge favor. Like, subscribe, and comment for the YouTube algorithm. Thanks to my friends for giving me some of this information, etc. I'm really interested in revenue, etc. because I was a logistics officer in the United States Air Force. And I used to work in HR, so just revenue in general just like really interests me. And I want to know where revenue is driving in the game as well as downloads if I'm going to see just how well Monster Hunter Now is doing, because again, my goal is to grow this game. So with that being said, growing the game, y'all have to play, and good luck on your grinds, good luck on all of your drops, and I will see y'all on the next video.